I flew across the globe to see my online girlfriend after a year of talking every day, but the trip was a mess because she freaked out and basically ditched me. After a whole year of talking on the phone every single day, I hopped on a plane to visit my girlfriend from the internet. But when we finally met up, she was hit with panic attacks, leaving me stranded in my hotel room for hours on end, until I finally had to go home. I'm so confused about everything now, I just need to get this out there, for context. I met this girl a couple years back on a Discord server where we played the same game. We just clicked instantly, thanks to some friends online, since we liked the same stuff, and we had the same kind of humor, and I was super impressed with how driven she was about her career. She's really into her work, which is in tech. I don't want to give too many details, and she was always talking about her projects and other stuff related to it. We started talking more and more, and eventually we were chatting for hours every single day. We'd occasionally have phone calls with other people, but once everyone else went to bed, we'd still be talking until like 3 in the morning. Honestly, it felt different from the other online connections I'd had. One night we were talking about movies we both liked, and we realized we had almost the exact same taste. So we started using one of those websites where you can watch things together. Then early last year, she told me she had feelings for me, and that's when everything changed. So we were video chatting one day, and out of the blue, she just spills it. She'd been feeling this way for a while, but the distance made her nervous about saying anything. We'd been kinda flirty, so I wasn't totally floored when I told her I felt the same way. Our online time together just exploded after that. She'd even prop her phone up sometimes, so we could keep talking digitally while she cooked or whatever, before we made it official. I should have been clearer about what I was looking for, but I was caught up in the moment. Even through a screen, there was this crazy connection between us that's hard to put into words. Honestly, I hadn't clicked with someone like that in ages. My dating life where I live was pretty much non-existent. Before I knew it, she was calling me her boyfriend. She'd tell me stories about how her mom asked about me, or how she'd talk about me to her coworkers. Like, my boyfriend said the funniest thing today, or my boyfriend and I are going to see this movie this weekend. It was flattering, sure, but I always thought we needed to meet face to face before we really became a couple. But it was definitely a mistake on my part that I never corrected her. I guess I figured we'd meet up eventually and didn't want to hurt her feelings. We talked about meeting up a bunch of times. She's got a health problem that needs medicine, and she really struggles with anxiety. It makes traveling a pain, but honestly, it doesn't usually mess with her daily life too much. It just seemed smarter for me to go see her in Canada than to have her come to the States. Plus, with all the political craziness right now, crossing the border isn't exactly a breeze. I'm not going to get into politics, but let's just say it's harder to travel internationally these days. So I took a chance and booked a trip to see her around Christmas. Flights and a hotel room cost way more than I should have spent, but with such short notice, I figured it was worth it. The plane tickets alone were over $700, and the hotel for 3 nights was another $600. Truthfully, I was cutting it close financially. But I'd been saving for a while, and this felt incredibly important. After all this time talking online, I was dying to finally meet her face to face. In the days leading up to the trip, we practically talked every day. She was stoked too, but she also said she was worried her anxiety might get the best of her. When we first connected, she mentioned she'd been working on anxiety management with her therapist. That really gave me a sense of relief. It sounded like she was getting ready for our visit. She even made a list of places in her city she wanted to show me. I really thought she was just as stoked as I was. We had talked about hitting up a museum she was crazy about and some spots she figured I'd dig. I just got back from that trip this past weekend, and honestly, I'm still adjusting. I've been holed up in my hotel room mostly, where I'm typing this. I flew all the way there to actually see the city, but I've barely seen a thing yet. The trip got off to a really rough start, to be honest. After I landed, I took a 40-minute Uber to the hotel, which ran me around $60 because, everything there is expensive. I was pretty on edge, too. I'd only been to Canada a couple times, never to this city, and I was about to meet someone I'd only ever seen on a screen. The whole Uber ride made my stomach churn. She was texting me back, telling me how close I was, but her messages felt rushed and uptight. Because I was nervous, too, I figured she must be way more stressed than me, so I tried to be understanding. I figured she'd be ready to meet up when I got to the hotel. She lived just 5 minutes away. I picked that hotel specifically, even though it was more expensive because she'd said it'd make things easier on her to stay nearby. I texted her that I was good to go whenever she was, checked in, and took a quick shower. I just waited. Then instead of showing up, she texted me and said she needed more time. Man, her anxiety was seriously intense, so I tried my best to be understanding. I knew she was really worked up about something. But wow, it took her another 2 hours to actually get herself to come see me. I was stuck in my hotel room, constantly looking out the window, wondering if this whole thing was a huge waste of time. I tried watching TV but couldn't focus for the life of me. My flight had been so early I almost conked out. When she finally showed up, she was shaking and crying like, full-on sobbing. It was a super strange feeling. Going down to the lobby to meet her, I could feel her trembling when we hugged, and everyone in the lobby was staring, which just made things even weirder. She nodded when I suggested we head up to my room so she could chill out. She just sat on the edge of the bed in my room, sobbing for like a solid 10 minutes. I didn't really know what to do other than sit there and pat her back every now and then. I asked if she wanted some water and she nodded, so I got some from the bathroom. Once she calmed down a bit, she apologized probably 20 times. She kept saying she'd been fine until she actually had to meet me, and she had no clue why she was so freaked out. After a while, she seemed okay enough to talk. At first, it was super awkward, nothing like our easy online chats. But after about half an hour, she suggested we go to her place. She said meeting her brother would make her more comfortable, so I went for it. They lived in a little house, just a 5-minute drive from my hotel. Her brother, totally chill, a gamer type, and they had the cutest black cat always trying to climb onto my lap. Their apartment was neat but lived in, just like I figured from our video chats. Even though we hung out there for a while, she was a nervous wreck the whole time. She'd go quiet, staring off into space like she was totally zoned out. Her brother really tried to help. He kept the conversation going, asking about my job and stuff. It was nice, but honestly, I ended up talking to him more than her. She said she was too anxious to drive but wanted to show me around the city later. She was feeling overwhelmed, so she figured maybe tomorrow would be better. I suggested we all go out, but she just used Uber to get me back to my hotel. We were only together for 3 or 4 hours tops, and most of that time she was with her brother. I got back to my room around 9, totally crashed. I was wiped out. That day was a real emotional whirlwind, and the trip itself was exhausting. Man, I'd been up since like 4 a.m. getting ready for the trip. She texted back, "Sleep well. Sorry, today sucked. Tomorrow will be better, I promise." I clung to that promise as I finally nodded off. Sent her a good night text, then got up super early the next day, jet lag, I guess, or something. It was only 7 a.m. and I had nothing to do. She usually sleeps in 'cause she works nights, but I just sat in my hotel room, waiting for her to text. My stomach was growling, but I didn't want to wander too far, afraid I'd miss a message from her. So I ended up eating this awful, overpriced breakfast in the hotel bleh. Then I just waited and waited. After that, I showered, flipped through some TV channels, scrolled through social media, and gave my mom a quick call. Finally, 4 hours later, she messaged, saying she was awake but not ready to see me yet, still nervous. She needed some time, she said. I asked if there was anything I could do, thinking maybe meeting in a public place instead of her coming to my hotel would take some pressure off. I think she said something back, but I'm not sure. She said she'd let me know soon. I tried to stay calm, but honestly, I was getting pretty irritated by this point. To kill some time, I figured I'd walk over to the drugstore and grab a few things. I grabbed some Tylenol, figured I'd be needing it soon, along with some snacks and a travel toothbrush. I'd forgotten mine, Honestly, I was just killing time. I found this little lunch spot nearby. I ended up spending way too long poking around the pharmacy. Then it hit me maybe getting her something to eat would be nice. So I got us both sandwiches. I headed back to the hotel to drop my stuff before going over to see her. I shot her a text, letting her know I'd grabbed lunch and asked if I could swing by. After about 15 minutes, she said, "Yeah, come on over." I called an Uber and took the food to her place. It was already the second day, and it took me like 2 hours to get there. And she hadn't even touched the sandwiches. She thanked me for thinking of her, but said she wasn't hungry. I tried to hide how bummed I was, but at least her brother snagged the other one. We hung out in their living room, just chatting. She seemed a little less freaked out than the day before, but still kinda tense. Then she drops this bomb. Her brother, her, and me were going to this party with a bunch of their friends. I was starting to think maybe we could actually, do something together. I'd come all this way to spend time with her, so that was a bit of a shock. I figured having others around might calm her nerves, She said we'd only be there a couple of hours. When I asked exactly how long, she mentioned it was at her friend's place, kind of outside the city. I was bummed when she told me where it was, to be honest. I tried to act all thrilled, but our first real day together, I hadn't pictured this at all. The drive took about an hour. I ended up in the backseat. She was up front with her brother, driving most of the way. They were chatting about people I didn't know, sharing inside jokes that went right over my head. She'd try to fill me in sometimes, but it never really clicked. Mostly, I just stared out the window at the scenery, which was pretty nice, actually. There were like 10 people at her friends when we got there. Seriously, everyone was so incredibly welcoming and friendly. They all knew I was coming. She'd apparently been talking about me for weeks. She introduced me as her boyfriend, and it felt right. It was a great party, good food, some drinks, people playing board games and video games. Everyone was super polite, constantly coming up to me to talk. After hearing all about me, tons of people said how happy they were to finally meet me. This girl, I swear, wouldn't stop talking about me. It was kinda weird, you know? We hadn't really hung out much since I got there, so it was flattering but also completely baffling. We were in the same place most of the night, but we barely talked. She was always off playing video games with someone else or yapping away with her friends. We were practically in different worlds, even though we were in the same room. I kept trying to get closer to catch her eye, especially around 10 p.m., but nothing really happened. Then, finally, we started hanging out again. Since she usually stays up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, I figured we'd have tons of time to just chill and catch up, maybe talk like we did online, or watch one of those movies we always talked about. Then out of nowhere, she asks her brother, right there in the car, if she can drop me off at my hotel before they head home. I'm sitting there gobsmacked. She just saw her boyfriend, this guy who drove across the country to see her, and she's too wiped out to spend any real time with him. When she looked back at me like waiting for my answer, I just mumbled, "Yeah, sure," because honestly, I had no other words. The drive back to my motel was mostly silent. She mentioned she'd been super anxious lately and even apologized for acting so weird. It totally wasn't okay, but what could I say? I couldn't force her to spend time with me, you know? She gave me a quick hug and said she'd hit me up with a text in the morning. Getting to my hotel room, I just felt off. After almost no communication on day 2, I started thinking this whole vacation was a major screw-up. Now, here I am, back in my hotel room, totally lost and all by myself, even though my girlfriend's like a few minutes away. I'm alone in a new country, and we barely had any time together. I tried to watch a movie on my laptop, but I couldn't get into it. I just ended up scrolling through social media until after 1 a.m. I worried that telling her how I felt would freak her out, so I didn't. But I also had no clue what else to do. It felt like I'd met everyone in her life except for my actual girlfriend. By the time dinner with her family rolled around the next night, I finally texted her about how I was feeling. I tried to be honest but also easygoing. I told her that I knew she was stressed, but I was bummed we hadn't spent more time together. I mentioned that I'd come all this way to see her, and it bothered me that she seemed more comfortable around me when we were out than when we were alone. I made it clear that I was just confused and bummed out, not mad at her. So finally, she responded a huge, long message that took like 20 minutes to read. She was so sorry, saying she really wanted our trip to be amazing for me, but she was just wiped out, totally stressed out. Her anxiety was completely off the charts, she said. She kept trying to reassure me she was really into me, but she was just too anxious to be alone with me. Apparently, it's a big deal for her. She hasn't dated in years. She explained that she's much more relaxed around other people, less pressure to be all funny and charming. She said she's always worried I'm judging her, comparing me to her online self, you know. And she added that she's scared of physical touch after being out of the dating game so long, afraid I had some crazy expectations. I told her, look, there's a whole lot of ground to cover before a hug, let alone anything else, and I wasn't expecting anything like that at all. I mean, honestly, I hadn't even hugged her yet. I just wanted to hang out, you know, like we do online, get some real quality time in. I wasn't driving all this way for sex. I finally got to meet the girl I'd been talking to for months. That seemed to calm her down, and she said we'd hang out after she saw her mom. She said her mom was super thrilled to meet me, and maybe we could go back to my hotel and watch a movie or something after dinner. I went along with it, figuring it was better than just sitting around. That night, sleep just wouldn't come. I kept going over everything in my head, wondering if I messed up getting involved with someone who deals with such intense anxiety. That sounds rough, and I don't blame her for having mental health issues. It's not her fault, but I started to wonder if I could handle the challenges of a long-distance thing. Today's my last day here. I'm leaving early tomorrow morning. This whole trip just feels like a big waste of cash and time. I wanted to be with her since we don't get much time together instead of being stuck alone in a hotel room. I thought she'd want to hang out constantly. We'd been planning this trip for ages, so I figured it would be way different. Honestly, I don't know if this relationship can survive. Am I overreacting? I know anxiety is a real thing, but it feels like a waste to have come all this way. Update, it's been a few days since I got back, and since a lot of people were curious about what happened, I figured I should let you know. Some of you in the comments were pretty harsh. Yes, I get that anxiety is a real illness. Look, I wasn't just some horny guy trying to score, and honestly, I don't think she was using me or anything. People keep asking why I didn't just go sightseeing on my own. Yeah, I did some of that, but it wasn't the main reason I was there. This wasn't some tourist trip just to hang out with her. But I went anyway. I posted that thing online the last morning, super early. Then I just sat there, glued to my phone, waiting for her to text back. It took forever hours, at least. Finally, she messaged around noon. I'd been up since 8, so that was 4 hours of me practically vibrating, checking my phone every minute like some lovesick teenager. She said I could Uber over whenever and reminded me about dinner with her mom later. A bunch of you said I should bail on dinner, but I figured, what the heck? I'd come all this way, might as well meet the mom. I hopped in the shower, threw on some clothes, and headed over. I was a little shaky after everything that had happened, but I tried to stay positive. It was a relief her brother wasn't around this time. She still seemed a little tense, but way less stressed than before. We even chilled and watched some stuff together for a bit. We snuggled up on her sofa after she finally got to show me that TV show she'd been so excited about. Being that close, it felt like the real connection I'd been hoping for. She seemed way less stressed than usual, which was a huge relief. It was sweet, the way she leaned on me a little. Nothing happened, though, just us chilling. Then her brother walked in. Honestly, it was a million times better than the days before when she'd told me about all the gossip her friend had spread at the party. We talked about it some more, and it felt just like our online chats. Around 5, we started getting ready to go to dinner with her mom. That made me nervous. Meeting the parents is always a big deal, you know. I had no idea what to expect after everything that had happened. On the drive, I could tell she was getting tense again. I tried to keep things light and fun to take her mind off it. The restaurant was adorable, this tiny little Italian place. Her mom was already there. She jumped up and hugged my girlfriend, then gave me this big, warm smile. Wow, they have the same eyes. I could totally see where my girlfriend got her looks. Dinner went surprisingly well, actually. Her mom was really easy to talk to. She asked about my job and family, but she wasn't pushy at all. Her mom was genuinely thrilled we were getting along, and we hit it off right away. My girlfriend seemed way more relaxed at dinner than she had been the whole trip. She was smiling, chatting away, even putting her hand on my arm to make a point. When we left, her mom gave me a big hug. It was so nice and told me to come by any time, even though I wasn't sure there'd be a any time. In that moment, it felt amazing. Back at her apartment, her brother was around, but it still felt pretty private, you know. He mostly kept to his room. It was just like before, hanging out, talking, watching stuff. It felt way more intimate than before, but not completely alone. Was this the last day of the trip how I'd pictured it? Absolutely not. It was so much better than the first few days. I was totally surprised she offered to drive me back. I figured she'd just call me an Uber again. As the night went on, it felt like a small victory. We talked about the trip on the drive. I tried to be really understanding when she apologized again for how things had started. She said she knew I wished we'd had more time like today, and suggested that now that the first meeting awkwardness was over, maybe next time would be easier. She even walked me to my room. So we got to my hotel, and she helped me double-check I hadn't forgotten anything in the bathroom or drawers. It was a small room, but it felt really personal, way more than most of the tour stops had. We kissed goodbye, just a quick, sweet peck, nothing crazy. It was short, but it made me wonder what things would have been like if we'd gotten to that point sooner. After she left, we texted a bit. She said she wished we'd had more time together, and I told her I was heading to bed because my flight was super early. Then she mentioned she'd bought a frame for a photo of us, but realized we didn't have any good ones. The few pics we did have from the weekend were all just group shots from the party, not what she wanted at all. That bummed me out. I even suggested I could just Uber back to get a decent picture. After about 10 minutes of silence, I figured she'd probably fallen asleep or something. Then out of nowhere, she texted, "Come downstairs." She'd driven all the way back to the hotel? Crazy, right? She just wanted a picture and another goodbye kiss. I was totally confused at first, but sure enough, she was in the lobby when I ran down. We took some selfies and even got the night clerk to snap a few pics of us together. And then we kissed again, and it was intense. She held me close, whispering how glad she was I came, even though the weekend wasn't what we thought it would be. That last moment, though, it felt real and right. I woke up super early the next day to get ready to leave. Soon after I got back home, I think she texted to make sure I got back okay. The ride back was fine, which gave me a lot of time to think about everything that happened and what it meant for us. You know, I'm still trying to be positive. Even though the weekend wasn't perfect, I think maybe cutting the trip short was a bad idea, considering her anxiety stuff. You don't really get to know someone in just 3 days. Maybe if we'd had a whole week, things would have been more like that last night. We've been texting every day, which has been cool, just getting back to regular conversations. I've been trying to be supportive without pushing her, and she's been opening up more about her anxiety and what triggers it, especially with her appointments coming up. She said her therapist wants to focus on her relationship anxiety, which feels like a good step, especially with her having to figure out if she can travel down here for something this summer. We'll see how it goes. I think that'll really tell us where we stand. I gotta seriously think about whether this whole thing is gonna last. But there's a tiny sliver of hope if she actually makes the next trip and things go better. Just to clear up some stuff people were saying. Yeah, she's seeing a therapist, a new one, though, and she's on meds. She's battled anxiety for ages, and it's not something that just vanishes. Normally, I wouldn't even consider a long-distance thing, but we just click. Our personalities and what we like to do are so perfectly matched, it's rare to find that around here. And to everyone calling me a fool or a hopeless romantic, maybe you're right. I just believe in second chances, especially when mental health is involved. She wasn't trying to wreck the weekend, you know? She was really struggling with something big. The big question is, can we figure out a way to make this work for both of us? I really appreciate all the comments and advice on my last post. The next visit's probably 2 to 4 months away, so I'm not sure if I'll post again before then, but after that, I'll have a much clearer picture of where we stand. Thanks for listening to this crazy family drama.